All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Tim Nutt. I'm the creativity editor at AdAge, and welcome to the Gerety 2023 Grand Jury Insights discussion. The Gerety Awards recently chose all their 2023 winners, and I'm delighted today to be chatting about some of that winning work, as well as creative trends from the judging process with three jurors from those grand jury sessions. So I'm very pleased to welcome San Sava, Chief Creative Officer at Publicis Montreal, Stephanie Young, Chief Design Officer at Zulu Alpha Kilo, and Cass Zawodowski, Head of Global Creative Excellence at Manulife. Welcome to all of you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
All right. Well, first I wanted to chat just a little bit before we jump into the work that you guys chose about the judging process generally at Gerety. It's a unique show. So how was the experience this year?
I'm happy to jump in first here, Tim. For me, I found it incredibly flexible, which was really nice. I think that, everyone's so busy these days. The work from home culture has just inundated us. There's really no start and stop in our days. And I love that there was an opportunity to really get through the work at your own pace. So I was able to, break it into small chunks, have a chance to, as I said, spend an hour here, spend an hour there, really pay attention to what I was judging, really take it in, take my notes, shut it down for a day if I had to. So I would say overall, before I even talk about the work or the quality of work, just the opportunity to have the flexibility that Gerety offered this year was, for me, was great. I really felt like I was all in and was really focused when I was able to be online judging.
Nice. Stephanie?
Yeah, I mean, totally agree, Cass. And I think as well, what I really love was the discussion afterwards. So after we each kind of evaluated and looked at the work through our own lenses, be able to have that larger discussion with these different points of view, with our different backgrounds and experiences. That's what I particularly loved about this show, because of the powerhouse of people that I was able to speak with, and to, again, as I said, hear those different perspectives.
Mm-hmm. And Sam, how did you feel it went?
Yeah, for sure. The flexibility was amazing. And the great discussion. To be honest, I changed my mind a couple of times, because when you vote and then you heard with other opinion, and I changed my mind and evolved. And that's amazing, because it's always nice to share opinion. And I found it great on Gerety.
Nice. Well, there was definitely consensus around four pieces overall, which took home the Grand Prix. I'm going to mention them briefly. We're going to talk about all of these at some point. So the first one was the first digital nation campaign for Tuvalu by the Monkeys, which won a Grand Prix in alternative media innovation. See My Skin for Vaseline won the Grand Prix in integrated campaign experience. Where to Settle for MasterCard won the Grand Prix for strategy and work for good. And Apologize the Rainbow for Skittles brought the levity with the Grand Prix for integrated campaign and humor. So like I said, we'll get to all these. I wanted to start with the MasterCard campaign. This is a campaign that has been, recognized at a number of shows. It's really, really special. It was the campaign for McCann Poland and McCann New York, where they supported Ukrainian refugees who had fled Ukraine looking for places to live in Poland. And it really used a lot of data, collected a lot of data from different sources to create an app that really helped these refugees find places to live and places to work. What was it about this work that really spoke to each of you? Obviously, it's a very political campaign, but it's a really interesting creative use of data. So I'm curious, what parts of it really stood out. Cass, do you want to jump in first?
Sure, Tim, no problem. Yeah, for me, actually, it wasn't just the use of data. What I really responded to was how they leverage data so responsibly, in my opinion, for the betterment of society. I really responded to that. I thought that was excellent. And I think that, for MasterCard, if I think about how true they were to their brand's belief in sort of economic inclusion for everyone, and how they were able to bring that to life in such a interesting way, that again, as I said with the data comment, just for the betterment of society. I really responded to those two things. This was one of my favorite pieces of work that I saw this year.
Mhm. Yeah, Stephanie and Sam, how did you respond to this? Was it similar to what Cass was saying?
Yeah, for me it was similar. For me it was a real help, and I really like this kind of pieces, or how they make a real difference in helping the Ukrainian. I was like, amazing. I was super happy of this piece, super proud of us, because in our day to day, sometimes we don't sell good, we don't always sell good thing. And this was like, oh my God, I wish I could do it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I think, we talk about brands like living their purpose. I think, as you were saying, making economic inclusion for everyone. This one in particular as well, because of it created action and behavior change, as well as, I think, like that impact that I think about is huge. Yeah, and all of the different, if you even think about the commitment it took to bring not only their data sets, but to really integrate it to all the other platforms, that's what I find really mind-blowing. Like, just from an executional standpoint, be able to deliver that, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's not easy for brands to kind of get involved in politics sometimes. Do you feel like the MasterCard, sort of their history of pushing boundaries in many ways politically, and so on social issues? I mean, obviously the Ukraine war is on a different scale than a lot of what they've done in the past, but do you feel like their DNA as a brand really helped them be able to do this credibly?
Yeah, I do. I think because of their past, what I've seen in the past is they've done it for the right reasons, Tim. And of course, this one completely falls into that sort of space for me as well. Sorry, Stephanie, didn't mean to jump on you. I saw you.
Oh, no, exactly. Nope, totally on board. It's great. Agreed.
Mhm. All right. Well, let's also talk about the Vaseline campaign. This was a campaign that Edelman put together. It's called See My Skin. And the insight here was that fewer than 6% of image-based search results show skin conditions on people of color. So when Black and Hispanic people are trying to search for information about a skin condition they may have, they're less likely to be able to find what they're looking for. And even more importantly, they're then less likely to seek treatment for it. So I wonder, obviously Vaseline has done some interesting work in the past too. I'm wondering how this campaign, how the jury as a whole kind of reacted to this campaign, and what the discussions were kind of around the strengths of this one. Sam, do you want to start?
Yeah, I really like the campaign because it's a big issue. To be honest, it felt like, Shutterstock did a campaign with, they put like I think the name was Dream, and they put a lot of, because they saw that there was not people of color and diversity. So they put into a lot of images. Now you can search and you see diversity. So I feel it was the same kind of idea also, and but I think it's really important, and more people are doing it better because it's going to change for sure. But this was my only little issue with that. I was like, oh, it's not something super new, because Shutterstock did it a couple of months ago, or maybe years ago. So this was my only little flag, but at the end, I really love it.
I feel like this campaign sort of hints at something that's bigger going on in marketing now, which is that particularly with AI, is like there's this existing trove of information that exists that people draw from on the internet, and like if it's skewed, obviously in the same way that our biases are skewed in other ways. So I found this, even though it was a very specific solve for a certain problem, that it's a good reminder to marketers that the existing databases that people use are often like woefully inadequate. So I've personally found that to be really powerful, which is that, it went beyond this one issue and into like a larger thing that a lot of marketers are dealing with. Stephanie or Cass, do you guys have thoughts on this one?
Go ahead, Stephanie, if you'd like.
You go first. Yeah, you go.
I think as more brands consider how they can focus on a more inclusive society, Vaseline's really doing a nice job of that. And what I liked specifically here in this idea is it wasn't just about awareness. Like, I think we are well beyond the awareness stage. And I don't think every brand has realized that yet. So when they're bringing forward, inclusive society ideas, it stops at the awareness piece. And Vaseline did a really nice job here of solving the problem, or trying to solve the problem, trying to help solve the problem. And I think that's what brands need to be doing more of, is showing up and putting, money where their mouth is, and really creating solid solutions to help evolve issues like this.
Yeah, and I think also, if I think about just the target and just how people more than ever now, are always trying to self-diagnose and putting people's own health, even skin health, in their own hands, I feel like is something that is really smart, just in terms of, again, creating something that's useful beyond just, pointing awareness. This is something we should all pay attention to, but that people can actually use and is solving a problem. Like that to me is what's, I feel like, common between this one and the other Grand Prix winner, which was the MasterCard work. So
yeah, I suppose creating action and behavioral change versus just messaging or awareness, like you said, Cass, like that seems to be a trend, I think, in general among brands over the past few number of years. But did you see a lot of work in the show that was like that, or did you see a fair amount that was sort of still just sort of awareness or just messaging over action? What was the balance on that this year?
I think there were more, like work that was trying to solve a problem, but sometimes the question was, is it a big enough problem to solve? Should it even be solved, And then I think other things, when we talked about more deeply, what was really the impact? Like, was the entry the idea, like meaning, was the idea come up from the agency or the brand, or was it given to them? So was it the message? And so those are the things that were kind of confusing as we're looking through the entries, and to really trying to, I think, get to that level of understanding through just case studies and, written material. I don't know, Cass and Son, if you felt the same way, like in looking at each entry.
For me, it was a little bit of half and half, Tim. I feel like, yeah, there's still a lot of work out there that is, borderlining just on the awareness side of issues. And I can't even think of an issue where we'd still need to be talking about the awareness. It's got to be about what a brand's doing to solve and to create an opportunity for that action. I always think about how people put pressure on a lot of famous people, right? Oh, they have these great platforms. They should be using their platforms to do something good, say something good. And I kind of feel like that brand, have that same, should have that same onus. So I'm always looking for like, what is the brand actually doing? Not just saying, what are they solving, and how are they helping make something, whether it be the world or a situation, better.
And sometimes it's hard to find the info, because you have the great campaign and you search for, is it really working? Is it online? And you find nothing. And it's always like, oh my God, I don't know if I can like it, or,
Yeah, advertising juries have a hard time with that often, right? Like figuring out the size of the problem. And I think Gerety does a nice job of having international juries, truly international juries, where you can get as much sort of cultural reference points as possible. Not every jury always has that. All right. Another one that I know, Cass, you liked this campaign, was the Opt Inc. campaign. It was a McCann Paris work for organ donor recruitment. And I believe the background here is that I think 1/4 of Germans have tattoos already, and that this was a free tattoo designed by a renowned tattoo artist that was given out free to folks who are organ donors, to sort of, it becomes, sort of etched on their body that they're organ donors. Really cool campaign, and with a really strong kind of interesting design element. Cass, what was it about this campaign that you really sort of supported?
Sorry, I couldn't come off mute there for a sec. I just thought it was such a creative approach to solving a problem. And I love how you just added the element of design, Tim. I would say that came up for me probably second or third in when I was judging and thinking about, okay, what I like, what is this doing well, what is this doing differently? I just felt, for organ donation is not a new topic. We've seen a lot of campaigns over the years for this, issue. And I think that this was just a really modern, proactive way of solving. And, I dug a little deeper after, of course, you watch a case study and you're inspired and you dig a little deeper and you find out how, there's been a lot of traction for this campaign. There's a lot of people sharing their, tattoos online. There's a lot of calls to action for other tattoo artists to want to join in. So again, I know that wasn't part of what we're judging, but you can't help but go offline after and just be inspired by all the ways that an idea is actually out there working in the world. So this one to me was just really creative. Loved it.
Yeah, I think I read that 250 tattoo parlors are now sort of
Nice.
involved in this campaign.
That's
which
a
is
lot.
It's not enough. You want to have it worldwide, it's just a simple idea, we have all these tattoo artists that went to city and city over the world, they are traveling every year and every month they are traveling. And I'm like, oh my God, this could be like something they can bring with us and, on the tattoo convention and have like something on the tattoo convention all over the world, and could be amazing. It could be amazing.
Yeah. I know we're talking about a lot of purpose work here. We're going to get to some other stuff a bit later, but first, a few more purpose-driven campaigns. The one that really everybody was talking about, certainly at Cannes this summer, and I think on this jury as well, the first Digital Nation work by the Monkeys, which is an Accenture song agency. Tuvalu is a group of volcanic islands in the South Pacific, and they will soon be underwater due to climate change. So this was an effort to preserve the entire nation inside the metaverse, make a digital copy of the nation. This to me was like ambitious, sort of beyond like an advertising campaign. What was the discussion in the jury room like kind of about this particular campaign? Stephanie?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I feel like this one there was debate because the overall conversation, the bigger message was about, I think, just climate, the state of, our climate right now, and this bringing awareness to it, and that this will be the first nation out of many. And then the idea of this being digital, obviously, when you think about the carbon footprint, is this really adding towards that? So I'm just giving you a point of view that was presented and that was shared. But I think, that was one of I would say, the points of discussion. But I don't know, when we think about work and when we think about precedents and doing something for the first time in a meaningful way, which is preserving a culture and it being recognized, I do feel like that has a lot of impact and does draw awareness. So for many, it was like, yes, this is an interesting use of technology and like thinking about opening our minds on what that could be. But there was that other side, which was, well, are we really contributing to the climate issue? But,
I found it interesting that they used the word metaverse. I didn't see that there was much of a metaverse per se angle here. I think that was a bit of a case study, bait and switch perhaps, but certainly, I think from what I understand, that the actual physical assets of the nation will be under threat if they're not sort of,
Right.
properly legally dealt with in this way. So to me, that proved, that the concept was real. Cass or San, how did you feel about that?
I just think I agree with everything Stephanie has said already, but I would add that I love the boldness. I think if there was one thing I wanted to like comment on that really stuck out for me beyond the idea itself, but the boldness of how the team went about bringing this to life, the different channels in ways that they, was a COP, forgetting the number of COP 20 something. The way that they tried to bring different channels to life to bring this messaging out there. I thought that was bold in itself, and it didn't just seem like a bunch of tactics. It actually felt like a really nice emotive storytelling opportunity, and that they used each sort of stage of that well.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay. I want to talk briefly about two Alzheimer's campaigns that both won awards this year in the show. The one was from Argentina. It was called I Don't Remember by Havas Buenos Aires. And this was an interesting social campaign, broadcast/social campaign, where an Argentinian soccer player, while being interviewed right after one of his club matches, basically told the interviewer that he didn't remember anything about the game. And the interviewer, it was all staged, but the people watching didn't realize it was staged, and it caused a lot of chatter online as well as in the studio afterwards about what was happening there. And it was quickly revealed to be an Alzheimer's PSA. So that was one campaign. The other one, very different, a film called The Glitch from BBDO Germany, directed by Pedro Giomi from Caviar, which really sort of tried to visually represent what Alzheimer's may feel like to people, sort of as a glitch in the brain. There's a technique called data moshing that was used in this film to sort of try to visually represent what the Alzheimer's experience might be for a sufferer. So very craft-driven piece, very beautiful, very sad, just a wonderful bit of craft. So two very, very different approaches to the Alzheimer's message. So wondering sort of pros and cons of each as the three of you sort of reviewed each of these pieces of work. Stephanie, do you want to start?
Yeah, to your point, two very different approaches. I mean, so I have Alzheimer's in my family, so it is something that's very personal to me. And I have to say the craft approach, like that video, even though it was such a traditional medium, had, if you haven't watched it, go watch it, because it really did. I can't even, put into words the power of it. So there's like the emotive story and the conversation. To your point, is it like the other one, which is, I think, Cass, you might describe this as, well, I'll just use your password as bold. Like it was a simple, bold PR statement, and that was it. Like it was up to you to go and research or learn more. I didn't really say anything about Alzheimer's, but I think it just put the idea out there versus one which would make somebody more empathetic to it. So when I think about the impact, like the impact of, I guess, getting it out there, like verbally versus impacting someone's life, I feel like the video was more had that probably affect more. But I don't know what everyone else thought.
Yeah, I think both are, because awareness is super important for an issue like that. And in Argentina, soccer is like a religion. So I think it's why it was brilliant, because they are all waiting for the soccer player to talk, So for me, it works super well in the awareness. And the glitch, you're right, is so much emotional. I was crying watching it, and I watched it 3 times, and I cried 2 times, and I was like, oh my God. And I think they works well, maybe another level for sure, awareness for the soccer team, but super efficient awareness. And the other one is like, they can work together, word awareness, and then you feel like what it is to have Alzheimer with the film. So super, and the craft is amazing. So both of them, I really, really love them. And I'm always wondering if the brief was the same on the table. When they received the brief, was it the same brief with different way to do it? But I found both are super cool.
I mean, it's kind of what's great about our industry, right? Like 2 different ways in, two completely different solutions, both hopefully making a difference in the end. Cass, did you have thoughts on either of these?
Nothing really to build on the glitch. I agree with the ladies on both. I think, yeah, the emotive piece and the craft, of course, fantastic. I think maybe for me on the, I'm sorry, Tim, I'm blanking on the title of the other one. Could you remind me?
Was it I Don't Remember?
Yes, thank you. Wow, I don't remember. Yeah,
that's
great.
Nice.
That was
good job, guys.
No, geez, Louise. For me, that one, again, sort of the theme maybe that I've been touting for the last 25 minutes is action and what we're doing to solve issues versus just awareness. I'll admit that I wasn't probably one of the judges actually who maybe voted for that piece. I felt like it didn't do enough. It felt a little gimmicky and tactical for me. Son, I hear you completely on the football or soccer piece and the fact, it is a religion in some parts of the country, but I feel like it just needed to do more, and it didn't close the circle for me. So maybe I'm one of the only judges that felt that way, but for today's purposes, sharing my true point of view on that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. All right, well, it's safe to say purpose is alive and well in the Gerety show, but I also wanted to touch on the Grand Prix, the integrated Grand Prix for humor that went to Apologize the Rainbow for Skittles. So always fun to see a funny piece of work, something that's particularly in our the whole COVID situation for years. The world was pretty somber, still is in many ways. So humor has long been a great tool that advertisers can use to get consumers sort of feeling good. So what was it about the Apologize the Rainbow that you guys think deserved a Grand Prix this year?
I really like the piece because it was changing my mind, because all day it was like when you saw pieces and it's always like big issue, big trouble, big thing. And this one was so light and so funny. I was like, oh my God. And I was thinking, oh my God, it's a lot of campaign without humor. I think, I don't know, 5 years ago, we used it all the way, always. And now we're with the COVID thing, it's like humor was dropping, and I hope that it's coming back, because we need it.
Yeah, I think humor is like underrated as like a human sort of emotion. It's considered kind of,
It's the best.
flippant, or, it's actually pretty deeply human.
I mean, totally deeply human, so powerful. Like, just remember that, like, we don't suck anymore. We're sorry. Like, it's just, I could have, if there was 30 more minutes of that, I probably could have watched it. I just think that's exactly the point. It's like right now, there's a lot of purpose led, which is great, but come on, we all want to laugh once in a while. That is a very human emotion and probably like one of our favorites. So yeah, I was very, happy to have that up there with the others, and very on brand. So there we go.
For sure. Yeah. A long history of great humor work from Skittles. All right. The last thing I wanted to chat about was the single most awarded brand in the world at this year's Gerety show was McDonald's. So I'd love to hear from you guys. I mean, there were so many campaigns that won: the adult Happy Meal, the unbranded menu from the Philippines, the McDrip fashion drop from Finland, several campaigns from Cassette in Canada. So I would just love to hear, as you're judging a show, do you give extra points for big brands where perhaps the degree of difficulty is a little higher in large bureaucracies to get good work through? It seems to me that it sometimes is easier for nonprofits or smaller brands to sort of greenlight work that's interesting. So did that come up this year in the discussions? And how do you guys personally sort of feel about that topic?
Yeah, I think it's super hard to do something new with McDonald's, because you feel like everything has been done. So when you work on these kind of brands like Burger King or McDonald's, it's super hard to do something new. So every time I see something and it's new, I'm like, oh my God, they did it. So I'm super proud of them. Yeah.
It's interesting. Cass or Stephanie?
Yeah, I'll add to that. I think I will admit, I give a few extra points to big brands when I see them doing bold work, whatever that may be, whether it's humorous, whether it's purpose driven. I think, having gone client side myself in the past few months, I'm seeing it firsthand now, how difficult it is, not for any other reason. Brands want to do it. I believe all brands want to do great work, but there's lots of reasons, I think, why it's not happening. And I think it's just great when we can recognize the brands that have gone above and beyond to do it, whether it be finding the right budgets, whether it be getting the right people to buy the work, whatever it might be. I will say, I give a little bit more to a big brand when they're doing something great and impactful in the jury room.
Yeah, definitely. Same here. I think what I think is really amazing too, just cultural relevancy, across markets and regions, but still being true. feel like super hard, super tough, and actually like putting it into market. So yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see a big global brand through the lens of different markets, like different, individual cultural truths kind of reflected through that brand is always interesting. All right, fantastic. Well, that's all the time we have today. I wanted to thank the three of you so much, Sun, Cass, Stephanie. This has been a really fun conversation. Really appreciate your time. And for a complete list of this year's Gerety winners, please visit geretyawards.com. And